Hello, everyone, and welcome to Three Coaches, One Topic. And today I am joined by Wendy, who is a fave of mine and a regular, and Umar, who is brand new, who I met recently and had such a great connection, and I love what he's doing. Before we dive into our topic today, which I am super excited about, I will pass you over to Wendy and then Umar so they can just tell you a little bit about themselves, their businesses, and where they're calling in from. So, Wendy, I will throw it over to you.
Okay, my name is Wendy Shaw. I'm an mBraining trainer and coach with a background in NLP. I've been in the coaching space since 2007, in the training space since 1990 something. So yeah, that's me. And so much more.
Oh, layers. She's an onion. Thank you, Wendy. And Umar, welcome.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Wendy. So my name's Umar Khan. I am an executive leadership coach. I have a background with NLP, strengths, mBraining, and I have a wider background in corporate digital transformation and innovation, where I worked across banking, tech firms, startups, and so many more. And that's me.
And again, lots of layers. No, what I love about you is that you have so much depth, and you have this wonderful sense of calm about you, which we all need in our lives, is that little bit of calm. So thank you very much for joining us today. As I said, I'm Donna Burfield, and I'm a joy and purpose coach, which focuses on parents, not so much parenting, but unfortunately it falls under that parenting title. And I also run a group here in Dubai called Coaches Supporting Coaches. After 26 years in teaching and several years now coaching, I get to combine the two, and I absolutely love it. So what we're going to do, that's enough about me. Let's move on to today's topic, because a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, I did a course. Now, I'm big on personal development, professional development, and I really am quite fussy as to which courses I invest my hard-earned cash and time into. And Wendy, I've known you for a while now, and you run mBraining here in the Middle East, and I just thought I have to do a Three Coaches, One Topic around you and mBraining, which is hence why the title for today is Exploring Your Multiple Brains with Creativity, Compassion and Courage through mBraining. It really touched me, really resonated with me. I know it's something that I am going to use with my clients, and I've been tapping in for my personal life. But I really want to hand over to you so you can give everybody a little bit of a lowdown of what mBraining is.
Okay, all right. So I can say I'm the first mBraining trainer here in the UAE, and I'm so proud that two of my students have also gone on to do trainers training and take it to the next level, although neither of them are practicing here in the UAE right now. So there'll be more. So what is mBraining? I've always been fascinated with, people and how they work. And I think in the coaching space, it's always been important just to try and find out sort of how are they doing their problem. What I love about mBraining is it has multiple definitions. So one of them is that it's how we are using our multiple brains, so our head, our heart, and our gut. But how are we doing it right now? So how are we using them on a daily basis or from moment to moment? But it's also a process, it's a modality, coaching modality, of aligning and communicating with those multiple brains for a specific outcome. So MBIT, multiple brain integration techniques, which is the real name of it, is all of the tools that we learn. A lot of them are in the book, also what we cover on the mBraining Coach program. So those are the actual tools of how to communicate, align, gain congruence, and explore them in a much deeper level. So yeah. So I think it's really sort of getting the knowledge and the essence of how you are doing you, but then how can you do yourself differently?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So how you can use your head, your heart, and your gut to support you rather than sabotage you. Because I think we can all relate to times when we know what to do, or our head tells us to do something, but our heart wants something else.
Yeah.
Or procrastinating. We know what to do. It's important at the heart level, but we don't do it. And what's this? A lot of people talk about gut instinct and gut intuition. Intuition comes from all three brains, but are we listening to all of them? So yeah, it's fascinating.
It is. And when I started on this course, I realized how top heavy people can be, or just use two of their brains without tapping into the third one. I just want to go over to you, Umar, because you've known Wendy for quite some time and heard all this head, heart, gut language. And how does that resonate with you?
So it's super interesting, Donna. So my background is kind of similar to Wendy in the sense that I've always been fascinated by why people do what they do, and I'm curious. And that was where my journey in coaching started, probably in 2009, 10 onwards, and the trainer part has grown from there. I spend most of my time in a corporate space, whether it's previously with people like HSBC, a local UAE bank, tech firms, startups, and the corporate world is, I can say this on this call, it's quite different to working to an individual. That's very performance-based coaching where KPI driven, and it's very metrics and hard and fast rules. So what I have been doing, and so much of the great work with Wendy from Wendy Learning in and around the space that she's taught in has been, how do we bring that in? And it has manifested in different ways, from one-on-one executive coaching, leadership teams, board advisory, all the way through to how do we change the culture of an organization? Because if we step back and we look at an organization, in its own way, it is an organism. It's a being. It's a thing. It operates, it moves, it survives, it thrives, or it dies. So my specialism is around transformation. It's focused around digital, connecting the tomorrow with the today. And in that, what I have found is that if we look at the organization in different brains, if you like, you have a more strategic financial element, which is very akin to the head brain. It kind of directs and thinks a lot. Then you have.
Can I just jump in? We even call it heads of department and head office and headquarters. Back to you.
And then you have the heart, which is around the organization's identity, is around its values. What does it mean? Who are the people? And then we also have a purpose. What is that organization setting out to achieve? What do they do? Et cetera, et cetera. So many of there's so many similarities and so many transferable concepts between the two. And the art for me really has been, so how do we take this thing around three brains, and which is incredibly powerful on an individual level, and how do we bring it into a corporate space where, I wouldn't really rock up and say, well, actually, Mr. CEO, did you know you have three brains, not one, and things like that. It's really about transposing and helping people to understand things in a language that they do. As I said, whether it's a senior executive one-to-one coaching, board advisory, and or culture change, and then business coaching and mentoring. So there's so many different elements through which I've brought it in.
Yeah, you can definitely play with it and adapt it to those different environments. And I have to say, on a personal level, this has not just this course, but since knowing you, Wendy, and realizing the power in making sure it's aligned, my decision making is so much more purposeful, and I am so much more at ease as in drawing those lines and setting up those boundaries now, because there is that alignment. A lot of the times I've made decisions and I've gone, I know that's the right decision, but there's something off here. And especially in personal relationships, there's an alarm bell going and it's just like, no, it's going to be all right. Exactly. So definitely when you're starting out in relationships, this is a really good one. Or leaving jobs and going on to the, you know, those big transitions. But yeah. So Wendy, tell us a little bit about how you actually got into this and, you know, what sparked that interest for you to become a trainer?
Yeah. I'd say because I was busy co-delivering and coaching on the NLP practitioner and master practitioner programs, I think, I'd done it so many times. I still loved it. But I got to that stage, it's like, okay, what next? What's next for me? You know, where can I take my knowledge, my experience so far and take it? I was ready for a little bit more. And somebody mentioned this course about 3 intelligences and the head, the heart, the gut. And I thought, I need to find out more. And working with Carol, we actually collaborated with the Performance Solutions on bringing Wilbert over to Dubai. And so I got the brochure, the information. And I've shared with you before, Donna, usually if I'm investing in my own development, I want to know the objectives. What am I going to learn? You know, I do my research. Who's the trainer? But this one, it just felt right. I just had to do it. So I just took action. I knew it was for me. So all of that I now know is my gut just said, yum, yum. Eat it up, girl. I was registered and paid for it. And then so that's when I first met Wilbert, and I went through the coach program, saw how powerful it was. And because it kind of, Dr. Wyatt Woodsmore explains it well. He says that mBraining picks up where NLP leaves off. And that's because NLP is very head-based, because it works with the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, and the auditory digital. So when we look at the 5 senses, NLP is about what you see, what you hear, what you feel. But what they dropped was the smell and taste. And that's really where mBraining came from, because it was that curiosity. Oh, what about smell? What about taste? And smell links to the heart and taste links to the gut. And then sort of exploring that. So I just knew on day 4 of the program, I went for dinner with Wilbert and sort of said, how do I do more? What next? And Ahmed, my learning twin, he came for dinner with us as well. And we were both so keen. And it was like, well, the next trainers training is in Bath in the UK. This was in the October, and the trainers training was in January. So the beginning of January 2015, I flew back to the UK. It was -7 degrees. It was absolutely freezing. I've never had such a selection of thermal underwear. And I wore it all. But it was amazing. And I was so lucky to connect with Suzanne Henwood and also Grant Susalu, one of the co-founders. So I had the most amazing experience learning from them. And I just knew that I had to bring it here. So that's what I did. That was my intention. It took me a while to get up and running. But because it's new.
Anything new, it takes some time to, to start up with.
And it's actually called MBIT, Multiple Brain Integration Techniques. So it's MBIT Coach Certification Program is what you've just done. But when I did it, we had one lady, she thought she turned up for the Myers-Briggs Type Inventory, MBTI. So I had a chat with Grant and said, can I simplify it? Can I call it mBraining? People won't know what it is. He said, Wendy, you call it whatever you want, whatever works for you in your part of the world. So it's only when people know about multiple brain integration techniques, that's when I can call it MBIT. but otherwise it's mBraining.
Yeah, that makes sense now, because I was a little bit confused because I knew it as mBraining because of you, but yeah, absolutely. Umar, tell me a little bit, what was one of the key takeaways for you when you did a little bit more research and you were reading Let's Pass the Book, reading this book, which is awesome, by the way. It's getting very well thumbed. What have been some of the key takeaways for you?
So what's been interesting for me is I think over time really being able to see the difference between when I work with team and organization or whatnot, and they are so head-based that, and when we say head-based, it's more kind of their directive mind, making meaning and trying to find purpose in something, and it's the logical thinking, if you like. But it can often railroad an idea, a concept, an organization. And it's that awareness that when you go in and around mBraining, when you understand what MBIT is, you're able to hear, you're able to bring people together and be able to, as a coach, I'm able to sit down with someone who's very head-based and be able to help them to maybe quieten the head and let the heart speak out, or let the gut speak out, or let some of the other things speak out. Now, I have to be honest here, I don't always use words like head, heart, gut to my senior clients. Sometimes it's just talking and the linguistics around how things come up. But as a coach, and then when I train in teams and I talk to teams, particularly around culture, because culture is very much about who we are and what we are, and what do they believe. It's the fabric of the organization. And it's very hard to be able to change that, to drive that, to even design that without having an understanding of what are the values that you either have or want to have. And that doesn't necessarily come from a head brain type conversation only. It's something that you do need that alignment, integration with, that the organization needs to feel a certain way. So those are sharings that I often take into organizations and teams, and particularly when I work with C-level. So my corporate career, last couple of roles have been C-level, and driving that amongst peers, amongst teams, amongst boards to actually think, okay, well, how do we take that great bit of information that may be around what we call head brain, and how do we give voice to another part of the business or another part of the organization or another outfit, even if it's not in that same regional office or in that geographical space. It's that awareness. And then when you build this awareness, people begin to see different things. They can see what they couldn't see before. So that's what's been really interesting for me, to not only in the beginning to see myself, but to be able to propagate. So my purpose in this space is to drive change. That's what I do. I'm a corporate change agent and a startup corporate agent, startup change agent. And that came from an individual perspective of driving change and helping people get better and better. So now it's growing that wider and wider in different spaces and places.
Yeah, no, interesting. And if you don't mind, if I ask, has this changed or made you more of aware when you're going in and you're going into those spaces on how you deliver and how you coach now with that awareness and reflection?
Absolutely. Early in my coaching journey, I got involved in NLP, very involved in NLP. I taught coaches how to coach. I did lots of really interesting things in that space. As Wendy said, mBraining kind of picks up where NLP stops. So for me, it's a natural evolution and a natural extension of the things that I do. So one, for myself, when I was first getting involved in this some years ago, understanding what sort of language someone's saying and what could that mean, and where's the unmet need and what might we not be looking at, to now when I go and train and drive change programs, it's really about shining light on things that aren't seen. So all of that comes from an amalgamation of the whole journey.
Yeah. And I have to say, Wendy, when I was doing your course and picking up all those keywords that or everyday language that we use, and how it is signifying whether they're using their head, their heart, their gut. I mean, that was great. Can you talk us through some of the exercises that, if you don't mind, that you did during this course? And I have to say, hats off to you. Being a learning support assistant for 8 years, you differentiated so well. You know, we were in the room for 4 days, long days. Glorious days, but there was lots of different learning styles and personalities, and those ability to talk and understand English, and you handled it beautifully. So you know, this is why I'm really, really happy to sing this course and you praises.
Yeah, for me, I've always been fascinated with the linguistic side of it. So the language is so important. So although mBraining brings in, you know, like NLP, it brings in a whole new dictionary of terminology. It's like, how do we simplify it? So the very first exercise we did on day 1 was to explore the language of the head, the heart, and the gut. And if you remember, we also had post-it notes where we're writing more phrases and more expressions that come out, and worked out where to park them. So that always fascinates me, excites me. Day 1 is heavy on the neuroscience and the evidence and the everything else. And at the end of the day, we kind of explore the heart math research and you know, how to breathe, how to get into coherence and that balanced state, because that's the very first step.
Yeah, that was good. That was an interesting one, because I struggled with that a little bit, and then I had to, and you were again very accommodating. So yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, and that's something that I use all the time. You know, getting into that balanced state, or before I respond, just I take a breath, because it manages your state and it manages your stress level. So every time somebody cuts me off in traffic, rather than want to respond, I just take a couple of breaths, and it's like, okay, I'm fine. So it's a great way of sort of managing yourself on a daily basis. Day 2 of the program is all calibration skills, because it's all about paying attention. And we go through 9 different calibration skills or things to look out for. So yeah, when I attended as a participant, I thought, how can we spend a whole day just paying attention? But that's exactly the skills that you need as a coach, because we're not just looking for the language, we're looking for the metaphors, the how it shows up, the gestures. If you remember, we did the neural syntax, so getting somebody to talk about a problem, and then we would map it through in terms of their language. So we had a scribble for each participant of, this is how you are doing that problem, in terms of the order of where you're accessing. So yeah, the day 3 we start coaching, because we go into the communication phase. So I find it quite frustrating for coaches that you don't actually get to practice the coaching techniques until day 3 of the program, which seems a long time. But that's sort of building up the multiple layers of, when you've got all of the awareness and the attention, now you can spot things and you can know where people are and how to best support them. So we've got the MBIT roadmap. So we've got a structure, but it's very heuristic. And I think that's what I love about it. It's not step 1, step 2, step 3. It's what's the client saying? Where's the best place to sort of jump in and help them? Where are they at? Work on the coherence, and then we guide them through the process. So, yeah. And then it was working with different partners and really exploring the different chunks of the roadmap. Yeah. How many exercises do you want, Donna?
Pardon?
How many exercises do you want?
Yeah, no, it was good. No, what I liked was the fact that when we got to start practicing on day 3, is that we had built up quite a nice relationship between within the cohort. So you felt comfortable, especially when you asked. You said to us to bring between a level 2 and a level 10, preferably down by the level 2, and you think.
Yeah, I suggested a 2 out of 10 problem or
Sorry,
issue.
2 out of 10. Yeah.
To be kind to the coaches.
But you do think, okay, well, I'm going to bring a level 2, and it ends up being a whopping level 10 because you're starting to ask those questions with your head, heart, gut. So yeah, no.
Well, just imagine if you kept rocked up with a level 10 one.
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely not. Okay, so what would you say some of the biggest learnings when you've done these coach programs from the coaches have been, that feedback to you?
Yeah, I think for me, just how powerful the mBraining technique is. I used to do a breakthrough coaching session where I'd spend all day with a client, including sort of timeline therapy and tidying them up their pasts, and then really working on values, and it was a value shift process, and then working on future goals. And, it was a whole day and it was exhausting. And I realized that, the very powerful results, and that's because previously I was just working at head level with a little bit of heart in terms of values. But change happens when you change your identity. And once you realize your identity sits in your gut, so you can make the changes. Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, I'm using all my language. I think, yeah, I really want this. I'm going to do this. But if you don't actually embody that change, then it doesn't stick. So I found with mBraining, it's so powerful in terms of, just it becomes you're working with who people are. So it's much deeper shifting levels. And you change their language. And because you go through the what we call the foundational sequence a couple of times, you really embed it into how they are being and doing themselves.
Oh, all the inging words that you came up with. Oh, Lord. No, so true. Umar, where do you find that you tend to sit more? What is your sequence? Are you more head, gut, heart? Yeah.
Yeah. Just before I answer that, I want to go back a level. Something that you just talked about. So when you were on the course, you brought along a 2 problem, and it was deeper and stuff. In my experience, that's quite normal, even in the corporate space. So, and I think it's worth calling that out, that even when working with managers, leads, all the way up to the top, the surface presenting problems quite often not the root problem. And it's not uncommon in my experience that the surface problem is a symptom. It's what's going on here now. It's what's hurting. It's what's upsetting, or it's something similar. But the root of that will be often something around identity, or will be often something around purpose of the organization, or will be often something around being valued by the organization, and it could be how the organization sees the employees. So there is so much that when you, as a coach, and our jobs as coaches is to be curious, to dig, to explore, to help our clients navigate and really understand what are they looking at. It's not uncommon to go from a 2 to 10 or 20 or something far bigger. And often, if you have enough of them in the corporate space, that's what can end up driving a cultural transformation. That can end up being, the secret sauce in any kind of organizational, digital transformation or whatnot. So important to call that out.
So, okay, let's go to the corporate side. So if you're dealing with CEOs or what have you, how do you handle if this becomes an identity on a personal level or values. How do you then differentiate this is within the corporate setting, this is in a personal setting?
Great question. And the challenge that you have is on paper, there are two separate things. In real life, it's one and the same. It is one person, and they are going through an experience of a corporate role at certain times of the day, and they're going through a personal experience at certain times of the day. The two are delicately and intricately interwoven. So I go where the client needs to go. What we have to be careful about is when we are doing broad brush team things, it's about maintaining confidentiality. It's about, being aware of where can you go into certain things, because your clients are very vulnerable. If they trust you and you are working with someone, you get to build a level of trust where they will share. And ethics, I know, is really important to all three of us on this call. It's something that we all hold at the highest level and the highest regard. And we have to be really careful as exec coaches that when we are in that space, if there's something that I feel like is going to come up that could possibly expose somebody or make them feel exposed, then I would offer to park that outright before we get there, and then pick it up separately on a one-to-one, either within the workspace or, if they want to pick it up separately. So that delineation is really important, because as much as you want to take people forward by understanding and unpicking and helping them to navigate their issues, there is also a professional duty of care that when you're in a corporate environment, that's their job, that's their co-workers, it's people that they see day in, day out, and they certainly won't want their emotional laundry ed in that space. So I think that makes executive coaching and leadership coaching even more challenging, because as much as I might be able to see from my experience, because I've done this for so long, where it may be worthwhile going, there are times when it's just not the right thing to do, in case it brings up something that could even put the client in a state that they don't want to be. Because the idea is you walk away from the client, and I always say to my clients that my job is to put you in a position or help you get to a space where you don't need me anymore. It's not about dependency on another person. It's about helping someone to get to where they need to get to, and then happy to reconnect in the future when they have a new bunch of challenges or a new bunch of goals and obstacles. But as a coach, you have to, what we call in coaching and training, go into meta, which is not being in my seat, not being in their seat, but kind of being way out here where you can see and play with the different modalities all at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. As you were talking, it's brought up an example. Okay, it wasn't corporate. It was during a coach training, and we all had to get together, and I was the coach, and there was the client, and everybody else went off screen to observe. And the client was talking about something personal about their partner. And I could sense that they were uncomfortable. And so whilst all the screens were off, I'm still fully aware that people are watching. I don't know, because their screens are off, actually how confidential this is. She may be revealing something. Somebody could bring somebody out. So I didn't dig deeper. I purposefully changed the direction a bit to protect her. And at the end of the call, everybody was called back in and said, okay. And they started to ask questions. Oh, Donna could have asked this question. You could have dug deeper. You could have, yeah, I could have. And I said, if this had been a one-to-one, just the two of us, I would have, because then I could offer the support afterwards as well. I said, but this is on a call. So I made the executive decision to say, no, I'm not going to send you there. I'm not going to invite you to dig that little bit deeper and maybe reveal something that you may feel embarrassed or regret later. So that meta is so important, especially when you're going through your coach training. I think coaches need to be aware of that before they start practicing on doing these observation calls.
Yeah, but that's where that's how you empower your clients, is to help them get that meta perspective of, okay, right, you know, am I overthinking this? Have I checked in with how I feel, and does this align with my values? And, you know, dropping down, so have I considered how this, you know, what actions I'm going to take, and is that me or is it not me? What are the risks involved? Because if we start, we end up living our life just by being in it, and we respond to this and we react to that, and we're just doing what we do without having that meta consideration of, how am I doing this? Am I running an old pattern here? Is this, you know, something that I want to keep on doing? So it's helping people explore how they are using their multiple brains, and is there a better way of using them? Are they listening to all of them or just one of them? I mean, there are times when I just tell my head to shut up.
No, but what I loved about was that now I'm going to be totally honest. When you get to the point of, okay, your head asks your heart what it needs, and your heart asks your head, you know, I do find that a little bit woo-woo for me. I'm quite that masculine side where I'm, oh really, you know, I don't embrace that. But what came up was the fact that I live so heavily in my gut, and those questions of, actually, do you need to protect me all the time? You know, is this a defense mechanism? And yes, it is. And it's also making me sick because I've constantly got gut issues. So
exactly. Yeah. And I think that's one of the magical things, is that, you know, your body is telling you when something is wrong. It doesn't sit well with you. You feel uneasy. You don't feel comfortable with an idea or a change of plans. This is your body saying, not happy with this. So but because it makes sense for other people, I'll share with you, something came up and it was like, I know it's important for them, but is it really important for me? And it's like, well, okay, hang on. At heart level, I want to help people, but at gut level, you know, how important, you know, is this what I should be doing right now? Because when it comes to actions, it's like, well, an identity, is this right for me at a deeper level? So, you know, it's checking in and having these good discussions rather than talking yourself around the houses. I mean, if I just stay in my head, I can talk myself into just about anything. But it's when I start checking in and using all of them, it's what do I need to feel more comfortable about this? And the fascinating thing for me is your gut includes your voice, because it starts at your mouth. So what are you not saying? What are you not expressing to the world? What are you not speaking up for you? So that is your gut, because that's identity. And that's where the courage kicks in. So the topic for today, the creativity, compassion, and courage, those are the highest expressions. So, you know, how are we demonstrating those? How are we showing up with all of those on a daily basis? Yeah, especially in the toughest situations.
100%, 100%. You know, you said this is sort of where NLP ends and mBraining takes off. Do you think it's useful for people to have had some experience around NLP before they go on to this coach training? Because
yes and no. Yes and no. If people are familiar with NLP, then, you know, they know that it's all based on strategies and modeling excellence. But then when you look at how you model how people do what they do, there is no inclusion of, or maybe some values, but how they feel, how they relate and connect to other people. And then at gut level, sort of, yes, it's exploring their behaviors, but not who they deeply are. You might explore some beliefs. So I think it's useful. I think for me, because it's my background, and I seem to attract a lot of NLPers. People know me for working in that NLP space, so that's why I often mention it.
I think just to add, I think as a coach, it does help. It gives you some foundation, some context. But I also think that for you to think about, do I need to understand NLP before I need to get into mBraining or mBit? You need to understand NLP well. It's not a case of just go in, spend a little bit of time in it, and then come in, get into mBraining, because it's not built one on top of the other. As such, there are relations, there are elements, there are crossovers, and as a client, you don't need to understand NLP at all. When I work with people, they would know, especially in my industry, people regard NLP as natural language processing and other kinds of AI, deep technology type things. So I keep a lot of that jargon, buzzword, what's quite esoteric to the coaching community out. And it's about where do we need to go to get what results we want to achieve.
Yeah. No, and what I enjoyed, and I did struggle at the beginning, because I was used to, and I'm getting ready for another accreditation, so I'm doing all my recordings. So of course it's like your driving lesson, you've got to make sure that you do everything properly. So I'm very aware of the language and the process, but doing the mBraining training, how we're talking about the head, going from the heart to the head, and then to the heart to the gut, and so forth. And the kind of questions you were asking, I ended up going into full coach mode and did not align, the mBraining training with that. And when I was aware of that, I was able to pause and go, you know what, it's okay to be comfortable and embrace this as a modality to add to my coach training.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think what happens, I had a conversation the other day, and there's a lot of loyalty to, I have a lot of loyalty to the first person who introduced me to NLP because it changed my life. I have a lot of loyalty to my trainers in different modalities. And because we want to, and I think, Donna, it's a sign of being head-based. You want to do something right and do it within that modality. A lot of programs actually say, and I know we used to say it with NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, it's like, you might be trained in all of these other ologies and leave them at the door.
Yeah.
We need you to just focus on this and see how it works. So I think with mBraining, it's just bring in whatever you've got. Yeah, just, blend it all in. There's no, you must do this, this, and this. This is how it's been discovered. This is what we've learned about it so far. And try it on for yourself. So bring it into your coach's toolbox and have that. It comes back to that calibration, that awareness of when people are talking, where's that coming from? And, how are they using the three? So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, look, so I would just like to ask a question around, is this course just for coaches, or do you have another way that, anybody off the streets that would like to, learn these life skills? These are skills. These are really valuable skills. So do you have anything coming up for them?
Yeah, I'm licensed to do 3 mBraining programs. One of them is like a 2-day personal journey. It's called Evolve Your World. I think Umar mentioned it earlier. Thank you. But it's just really exploring, how you are using your head, your heart, and your gut, and how are you being creativity? What's that creativity for you? How are you doing compassion? And are you being compassionate for yourself first? It's quite an important one. Exploring values. So, and also the courage coming from identity as well. So it's a 2-day, I'd say it's very personal. but going deep and to understand yourself better. So that's, I haven't got anything scheduled at the moment, but that's kind of a very personal one, where people, not everybody wants to be a coach. So it's just, you know, self-discovery. Then there's the 2-day leadership decision-making program, which puts it into the context of making decisions. So I love that one, because it makes you go meta on your process of making decisions. And if you're working with 5 people, you've got 5 heads, 5 hearts, 5 guts to consider. So how do you please all of them? But it's sort of negotiating through that. And then there's the next mBraining coach program is November.
Yes,
So,
which we'll be supporting 100%. We posted it for you as well. Looking forward to that. And I think you just brought up an important thing. I think as coaches, it's also nice for us to, you know, give those tools to people who don't want to be coaches, but it is that personal development. So they can dip in and help themselves in those times where things aren't aligned, they're feeling overwhelmed or overloaded, and understanding the difference between being overwhelmed and overloaded as well. So well, I look forward to seeing those coming out. Before we sign off, Umar, is there anything that you would like to add? Any sort of like wisdom bombs or reflections?
Look, I just want to thank you for having me on today and giving us a space to share this information. So nothing specific more than I've already said.
Thank you very much for being here. And you know, as I said, I completely understand what you're saying about the corporate world, and I love that you hold that space and differentiate what is appropriate for here and what's, you know, for the one-to-one out of that realm, so you don't feel so self-conscious about sharing those details. So yeah, no, brilliant. Wendy, anything else that you would like to share?
Just be curious, be nosy. The world is evolving so quickly, and I think when I discovered mBraining, and it's really, you'll both be familiar with chapter 9. Chapter 9 of the book is all about what we call the CIA. You know, here's the concept. What are the implications of this, and what are the applications? So this is based on behavioral modeling, which is something that both Grant and Marvin were exceptional at. So it's, why do I do what I do? Because I want more heart in the world. I think for a long, long time, we've become very head-based. You know, the businesses are in the business of making money. So it's all strategies, it's all, you know, KPIs, it's all objectives. The guts of the organization is the people, sort of the frontline workers who are delivering, and there's a disconnect. And this is where the heart comes in with the people. But I do think that I almost feel that perhaps we missed an opportunity during the pandemic, because the world stopped for a while and it was much more about helping and supporting people. But are we slipping back to being this head-based society where people don't matter? So that's why I do what I want to do, because I want to positively contaminate people.
And you do contaminate me. No.
I just want to make it a better planet, and I want people to have a better experience of their life.
Yeah. Well, you are definitely leaving a legacy, Wendy. And I think, I don't know if it was in private that we had this discussion with regards to the pandemic. It may have been on another 3 Coaches, 1 Topic, but I agree. It was funny when people couldn't go out and be with their families, and then all of a sudden they were allowed to go out, but they still couldn't really go out to work. You see families on their bikes, and I mean, it was great. And people were like, yes, we need more of a balance. And that's kind of now being forgotten and fallen back into those bad habits. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're going with this. Well, look, I just want to thank both of you for joining me today, and Wendy, thank you for introducing me to mBraining and also to the international community. I have to say, I've belonged to a few groups, but the mBraining mBit Facebook group has been extremely welcoming. So on that note, I will say thank you very much. And if you've got any questions or any comments, please leave them in the comment section. Wendy, if you can leave all the links,
the website, the link to programs,
for people to find out anything more. And if you want to reach out to Umar or Wendy to have a conversation, then please do. So on that note, thank you very much, and you take care. Bye-bye.